Hello, kinky people. It's Mistress Vega.
Lady Katie.
And welcome to
The Bonding Experience.
And today, we're doing something a little different.
We're going to start a series of videos on impact play.
And the first one is
using the most free, most common, and most basic impact implement.
spanking with your hand.
With your hands. A one-handed round of applause. I just wanted to say that.
She did.
Bad, so.
She mentioned it earlier. There are about 6 different ways to spank your sub. And we broke them down for you. And we're going to discuss those things. But first, the one thing about spanking and spanking techniques on your submissive, don't hit the tailbone.
With anything, even your hand.
Right. Don't go ham biscuits on the booty, just, right in on it. Nobody wants that.
It's not enjoyable.
You're just going to knock them into another room. You got to warm them up, get the booty red. Start off soft and methodical, no matter what it is.
Got to get the blood flowing to that part of the body, because then that tissue on their butt can take more. And if you just start wailing on it, they're going to give out a lot faster.
You're basically just abusing one part of their body.
Warm it up.
And the one thing that I can tell you is don't necessarily go in flat palmed. Go cup your hand some and cup the booty. Also, when you're thinking about the booty, you want to think about the meaty parts of the booty, not really the top. And then the bottom and the butt cut, that's what we call the sweet spot. Sparingly, but use it, okay? And your submissive will definitely tell you how it feels to them, whether it's too much or it's a good thing. Mostly it's a good thing to most people, so it's worth talking about. So without further ado, number 1.
Spanking as a disciplinary action.
Yes. So it's the most common form of spanking is to discipline.
When you think of spanking, you think that you're in trouble and you need a good spanking.
So the purpose is to punish for the bad behavior that your submissive's done. Normally, it's done with a firm spanking, okay? And they happen promptly after
An infraction.
on your rule list or whatever.
Or just for being a brat. Cliff. Someone got a spanking the other day.
So normally it happens like right afterwards, and there is no sexual pleasure that the sub should receive before or after this occurs. Normally, you're going to stick their ass in a timeout or in corner time. You got to take a minute from that since it's disciplinary. Number 2 is a reminder or a maintenance beating. We say beating, spanking. Normally it's a preemptive spanking intended to correct a bad behavior that before it goes too far. Normally there's a lot of verbal reminders in it of why there's no sexual pleasure before or after given. And sometimes it's even scheduled when it comes to maintenance. This can also help someone who is a submissive keep their tolerance level up, because we'll talk about that at a later time. But pain tolerance, you can gain. Oddly enough, you can gain a certain level of pain tolerance, and you can actually lose it. Like if you don't play for a really long time and then you go in with like somebody that's pretty heavy, like it's going to rip you to shreds comparatively to when you very first did it, because it's kind of like
exercising.
Yeah, it's like
if you
something.
go to the gym every day, your muscles are used to that. If you don't go for a few weeks
and then you go in, you're going to feel like you're dying.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things where you kind of got to maintain it.
So maintenance spanking.
Yeah.
And I think it also helps maintenance the submissive's mind. Helps keep them in their place.
Yeah. And 3 is a therapeutic beating. And this one's actually really important for the dominant to know, because this one can help relieve emotion, tension, stress, anxiety, and all these things. This is normally you verbally coach your sub through it, and you let them know that they're not in trouble, they're not a disappointment, but you're giving them this pain, this release, you can
basically see the levels that they go through this. Like the first one's like, oh, this is all fun. And then they start, sometimes they get pissed off, really, or angry, or
This is, yeah.
uncomfortable with it. But then they break through that uncomfortable spot or
Sometimes
anger spot.
Yeah.
And then that's when the what is catharsis kicks in,
Yeah.
and that's when they normally cry.
Yeah.
And they have finally actually let loose. And that's the
It's that relief.
really, yeah.
And normally there is sex involved maybe afterwards, a lot of cuddling, a lot of things. Now, each of these like do require some form of aftercare, but we'll talk about that at a later time. And then, you know, but this one's kind of, it's almost romantic to a certain extent to a lot of people. When they get to that level, they need coddling. Number 4 is foreplay or sex spanking, which that one's pretty general. That one's just a build up for intercourse, and it's basically just to arouse and excite both parties involved. It's normally light. It's normally
It's usually what most people who have just bedroom kink do.
Yes.
It's usually just for bedroom kink.
Right. And that's normally what vanillas think that we do. It's
just that.
Yeah.
The fake doms are like, yeah, I'm dominant, but all they do is pound you really hard and smack your ass a few times.
That's pretty much number 4. Number 5 is role play. This one kind of goes into that and melts into it a little bit, but role play is where the sub actually requests, because there's a difference between a sub and a slave and all these things, but a sub like more or less requests that like there's like a teacher-student dynamic or like a maid-owner dynamic or like a, you know, all these things. There's a lot of scolding involved, you know, and it's part of this role play where they're like spanking, you know.
It's a different
really hard.
mindset versus just being submissive. It's more of it's a role.
Yeah.
You're playing a certain type of role and wanting to feel a certain type of way.
And then there's number 6, which is the just because spankings. Now this one we particularly like a lot because this one's really pretty much for the dom's pleasure. The sub is to accept our authority in this one. This one's when we just kind of yank them out of the car and give them a good ass whooping. We're not going overboard. We're not getting crazy. We're not hurting them. It's not abuse. It's just pretty much we are putting our foot down. So it's to establish
our dominance and their place.
It's kind of a hard spanking. It makes them accept everything, and it lets them recognize and accept the full scope of our control.
Kind of goes with the maintenance.
Yeah.
As far as keeping up those dynamics and those mindsets. So,
but this one is the just because it's just because
we don't have to have a reason to do it.
No. You know, the punishment, punishment, and catharsis. That's really the 3 bases of these things is punishment. Think about that word, punishment, fun punishment. So it's cheeky, it's exciting. Punishment is more corrective. Punishment is more sexy and
punishment
fun.
Is business. Punishment is partying.
Like the mullet of spanking.
That's right.
And then there's the catharsis. So that's when you just need to get it all out. So, and I mean, doms, we feel good. We feel that way too. Like we get it out, you know, they get it out. So spanking can be a very fun way to introduce yourselves to kink.
And so in our next few videos, we'll show you some other things to use to spank. That's not just your hand. Stay tuned for more impact play.
Kind of 101-ish.
101 videos. We'll break down paddles and whips and floggers and all that yummy stuff.
Catch us in the next one, guys. Bye.